Hello everyone, Eric the Racket Scientist here, and today I have something new for you, though this should be hopefully a pretty short video. So what I have today is a Victor DriveX Metallic. Now if you're looking at this racket and if you know what the DriveX 10X Metallic looks like, you'll probably like, whoa, like what is this? This is not the racket that I thought was a DriveX Metallic. And yeah, you'd be right, actually. That would be this racket, the DriveX 10 Metallic. I probably said 10X earlier, that was wrong. It's the DriveX 10 Metallic. So I recently discovered that there's another variation of the DriveX Metallic. These are not the same racket. I want to stress that to start with. It is in the same lineup. It is a DriveX racket and it is a metallic racket. It is not the DriveX 10 Metallic. My understanding was that this racket is supposed to be a slightly positioned lower in the lineup. You can think of it as like a Yonex Tour model versus a Pro model. But at the same time, this racket is distinct, as in it has different specifications. So if we, kind of go, and it also being a lower model, it is manufactured in China rather than Taiwan, like a lot of the top line Victor rackets are. We can already see on the shaft that the stiffness levels are different. The DriveX 10 Metallic is supposed to be stiffer and possibly more head heavy, but in general, being a lower line than the DriveX 10, this is supposed to be easier to play with. Doesn't have as much technology or refinement. However, I really like how this racket looks, and that's actually part of how I found and decided to buy it. It's also quite affordable. It's a lot cheaper than this guy over here. I got this for, I don't know, maybe like around 110 US dollars, maybe even less if I check my receipts. You may think that this paint job looks familiar. I was at Yumo, I got this from Yumo, and yeah, I compared it side by side. If some of you are maybe familiar with the Hypersonic or the HS, there's an HS Plus. That's the kind of the famous one that a lot of people are using right now. Pretty demanding speed racket. Less people know that there was a predecessor to that racket, which is the HSB, I believe, Hypersonic B. And that one similarly was less stiff, less head heavy, and had a similar paint job to this one. Now, eventually, once I know someone who's going to Taiwan, I will want to procure both of those rackets, so you can expect me to, hopefully sometime this year, obtain an HS Plus and an HS Original and grip and review them. But until then, I have a lot of other stuff to go through. So let's go ahead and get started on this guy. Put this aside for now. And for those of you who have watched some of my other videos, you might notice that the camera, the focus looks a little different. So I got a lens attachment, like a macro wide angle lens attachment. So you'll notice I have a much wider field of view here. It's kind of nice. And it has the added benefit of, if I want to show something to the camera, it's much easier for it to focus. So that's cool. And again, this should be a pretty quick one because this is a free core handle, so it's really not going to take very long for me to clean it. If I can figure out how to take off this plastic, not like an idiot. Where's my scissors? Okay. Swear to God. Come on. I shouldn't have to do this. Just get a little cut so I can tear from it. Ugh. So clearly owning 50 rackets doesn't make you any better at doing that. So let's see. Okay. So the DriveX 10 metallic. So some of you may remember that the DriveX 10 metallic was the first metallic racket in Victor's lineup. And I was pretty excited when it came out because I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I would say I'm a big fan of like very unique or interesting rackets. So if we're talking about like take like Doug DeMuro, like from the Car Reviewer, he's his whole sort of thing is like he reviews cars that are quirkier and he reviews like normal cars and cars that people like care about, but his whole thing is like reviewing quirky or interesting cars, and that's kind of how I feel about rackets as well. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'll talk about, I'll feature, I'll review the rackets that everyone cares about, and that's interesting to me. But like, I really like buying and trying out very strange rackets. Some of you may know about my more unique ones. I've had some pretty unusual ones actually on this channel so far. And you know, if you're watching this and you've seen like the videos with the popular rackets, like, you know, 88D, but like this sounds interesting to you, you should go and watch some of the other ones, like for example, the Mizuno IJ2, very rare racket or uncommon racket. I recently did one on the Ghost and Inferno. That's definitely a very unique racket as well. I guess nowadays these metallic rackets aren't really considered that strange per se, but when they first came out, I was very intrigued. And by now I believe I've owned every single metallic racket from my memory. The second one to come out would have been the Ryuga metallic. I owned that one. I sold it because it was an excellent racket, don't get me wrong, but it was pretty demanding, and there were other singles rackets that I liked better. I have the R-Speed metallic. That one actually I'm quite a big fan of, and as you've seen in my videos, I have the 100X Ultra and the Thruster Ultra. So in general, I have found some people have kind of clashing opinions or like strong feelings about the metallic shaft material. And I mentioned this in the 100X and the thruster video, but like in general, the whole idea behind the metallic shaft material is a greater level of resonance in the shaft, which can be both good and bad. Unfortunately, was not as clean as I had hoped, so let's see if we can take the easy way out, and otherwise we might be here for a while, but see if I can cut out. Whew, okay. All right, we'll call it good there. And I don't remember if I mentioned it in a previous video, but my personal opinion is that the DriveX 10 metallic is a pretty good racket for training because it's not incredibly demanding. It's, you know, it's part of Victor's all-around lineup, which means that it's not, you know, super singles oriented, head heavy like a thruster maybe. It's also not like super light and like speed oriented for only doubles. So the even balance is just like kind of a good all-around specification. It's not, I mean, it is a stiff racket, but it's not like egregiously stiff. But mainly the metallic shaft is what I really like for the the metallic shaft is what I mainly like for the training aspect because, like I said in the ultra videos, it really communicates the resonance of the energy transfer. What that means in gameplay is that, first of all, it will make mishits or mistimings much more obvious. Like, it won't absorb shock, which means it'll have much more vibration if you mishit or get the timing wrong. Now, you can probably see this in all the people complaining online about the Thruster F and 100X Ultra about how much they vibrate. Part of it is due to the metallic shaft, and part of it is due to the fact that those rackets have really narrow shafts too. So it's a little bit of both. And towards that end, the DriveX 10 metallic and DriveX metallic are a little more forgiving because they have normal diameter shafts. But still, the material transfers is very resonant. So if you mishit at all, or if you have any sort of issues with timing or sweet spotting, it will tell you. Now, in a tournament, maybe that's not as good because you might end up mishitting more. But for practice, I think that's very good because it helps you really, really dial in your timing and your sweet spot. And so, you know, when people talk about rackets that have huge sweet spots, kind of like a Thruster F enhanced, or, you know, any racket that has like a square type shape sweet spot, you know, they always talk about it like it's a good thing, but you also want to think about the implications of, you know, is this going to build bad habits, right? You know, if the sweet spot is too big, then you kind of, you subconsciously get a little bit lazy about hitting in the dead center of the racket or wherever the sweet spot is, right? And you, I'm not saying it's gonna like completely destroy your technique or consistency or anything, but I just think that you can learn the consistency a little quicker if you have a racket that really punishes you for not hitting the sweet spot or like hitting with good timing, and that's what the DriveX metallic or DriveX 10X metallic is, in my opinion. So I really like to use that racket for drills and for stuff like that. Now the DriveX metallic that I have here, I have to imagine that I'm going to see something very similar here where, you know, it's very even balance, and in terms of like weight distribution and like design, it should be a very friendly and easy to pick up racket. But again, with that little bit of edginess in the timing, and this being a little softer and a little less demanding than the 10 metallic over there, you know, I would say that this might be a great choice for intermediate players that are still learning, right? Because the 10X metallic is quite heavy and stiff, so I can't really say that I recommend that one to intermediate players who are still learning, or perhaps female players that want that type of experience. But this racket might be a good one to pick up if you are weaker or like less skilled, or if you're a female player who wants a kind of training racket that will punish you for hitting off timing. So I'm going to go ahead and get that strung eventually, and we're going to get on the court and we're going to figure out how that plays. These strings are very old. I'm pretty sure they are over 2 years old, so I might restring both at the same time so I can compare them back to back. At any rate, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.